Something has shifted inside Department of Home Affairs, and for once, it's a change that genuinely works in applicants' favor. Australia has confirmed the rollout of a significantly upgraded visa processing framework in 2026, and it's already delivering faster decisions, more consistent outcomes, and a noticeably improved experience across multiple visa categories. If you currently have an application in progress, are planning to submit one soon, or have been stuck waiting with no clear timeline, this is something you need to understand in full. Because here's the reality. Faster processing is good news, but it comes with a catch. When decisions move quicker, so do rejections. Mistakes, missing documents, or weak evidence are now identified much earlier. Applications that are complete, accurate, and well-prepared benefit the most from this system. On the other hand, those that relied on slow processing times to fix issues later now have far less room to recover. That window is shrinking. So it's important to understand exactly what has changed, how different visa categories are affected, and what you should be doing right now to give your application the strongest possible chance under this new system. Why was a new system needed? To understand the importance of this upgrade, you have to look at the system it replaces. For several years, Australia's immigration system has been under intense pressure. The backlog that built up during COVID-19 pandemic was never fully cleared. Then, when borders reopened, application volumes surged right at a time when the system was least prepared to handle them. The result? Processing times in some visa categories stretched far beyond normal expectations, turning what should have been months into years. Applicants were left in limbo, unable to make firm plans, unable to commit to employers or institutions, unable to reunite with family members while their applications sat in a queue that moved at a pace that bore no relationship to the published estimates on the department's website. The political and reputational cost of that situation became impossible to ignore. Employers were losing skilled workers they had already identified and wanted. Universities were losing international students to Canada, the United Kingdom, and other competitors who could provide faster certainty. Partner visa applicants were separated from their spouses for years. The pressure for systemic reform became overwhelming. The 2026 processing upgrade is the government's most significant response to that pressure. What has actually changed in the new system? The upgrade operates across several interconnected dimensions, and understanding each one helps you understand how your specific application is likely to be affected. The most significant change is the expansion of automated processing and artificial intelligence-assisted case assessment. The department has invested heavily in technology that can assess straightforward applications against defined eligibility criteria without requiring manual case officer review at every stage. For applications where everything is in order, the documents are complete, the eligibility criteria are clearly met, and there are no integrity concerns flagging for further review, the new system can move cases through assessment dramatically faster than the old manual queue-based approach. What previously might have required a case officer to manually review a file, verify documents, and make a decision over days or weeks, can now, in many cases, be assessed and decided within hours or days. The second change is smarter queue prioritization. The previous system operated largely on a first-in, first-out basis. In practice, that meant simple, decision-ready applications often sat behind more complex cases, creating delays that affected everyone in the queue. The new framework replaces that with intelligent triage. Applications are now assessed early to determine whether they are complete, straightforward, and ready for a decision. Those that meet the criteria are prioritized for faster processing, while more complex cases are directed to experienced officers who can handle them properly. For applicants who submit well-prepared files, the impact is immediate and significant. The third major upgrade is enhanced digital document verification. The system now integrates more closely with identity, credential, and background verification platforms, including international databases and partner agency records. What previously required manual cross-checking can now be completed faster and with greater accuracy. For applicants with clear, consistent documentation, this speeds things up considerably. But for those with complicated histories or inconsistencies, issues are identified much earlier and dealt with more decisively. The fourth change focuses on communication. One of the biggest frustrations with the old system was the lack of updates. Applications would enter the queue and effectively disappear with no meaningful communication for months or even years. The upgraded system now delivers more consistent communication throughout the process. Applicants receive regular automated status updates, clearer notifications when additional information is required, and faster requests for evidence. Instead of applications sitting silently in a backlog, issues are now identified early and communicated quickly, reducing unnecessary delays caused by incomplete submissions. Which visa categories are seeing the biggest impact? The benefits of this new system are not evenly distributed, and understanding where the strongest improvements are happening helps set realistic expectations. Student visas. Student visas are among the most immediately affected categories. Australia handles a very high volume of student visa applications each year, and many of these, especially those from lower-risk applicants with straightforward profiles, are ideal for automated processing. Under the new system, complete and well-prepared applications are being decided much faster. Lower-risk applicants are seeing the biggest gains in speed. Decisions that once took weeks can now be finalized far more quickly. For applicants from higher-risk backgrounds, the level of scrutiny hasn't been reduced. However, the process is now more efficient, meaning additional checks happen sooner, communication is clearer, requests for further information are issued faster. Employer-sponsored visas, including the subclass 482, subclass 186, and regional pathways, are also seeing noticeable improvements. Previously, these applications were slowed down by sequential processing steps, especially around nomination and sponsorship approvals. The new system improves this by streamlining how these steps are handled, reducing bottlenecks between stages, and allowing parts of the process to move more efficiently in parallel. What this really means? Speed is no longer just about volume, it's about application quality and clarity. Clean, complete applications move quickly. Complex or inconsistent ones are flagged earlier. Communication gaps are shrinking significantly. Employers who have maintained clean sponsorship records and who submit complete, accurate nomination packages are seeing faster approvals, which in turn accelerates the downstream visa application process for sponsored workers. Partner visas, which had accumulated some of the most severe backlogs in the entire system, are the subject of specific processing improvement attention. The offshore partner visa backlog in particular had reached a point where medium processing times in some streams were approaching or exceeding 3 years, a situation that became the subject of intense public criticism and legal challenge. The new system includes dedicated resources and processing pathways for partner visa applications, with particular attention to clearing the most aged cases in the existing queue. Visitor and tourist visas, which represent the highest volume of applications across the entire system, benefit substantially from automated processing because the eligibility criteria for many tourist visa applications are relatively straightforward to assess algorithmically. Decisions that once took days are increasingly being made in hours for well-documented applications from low-risk applicants. Graduate visas and post-study work pathways are also seeing faster processing as the system that assesses study completion and qualification verification improves in speed and accuracy. What does faster processing mean for how you prepare your application? This is the most practically important question for anyone reading this right now, and the answer requires some honest directness. A faster processing system rewards preparation and punishes complacency in equal measure. Under the old, slow system, there was an informal buffer. Under the previous system, slower processing sometimes worked in an applicant's favor. If something in your application wasn't quite right, there was often time to fix it before a decision was made. The delay itself created a buffer. That buffer is now disappearing. With the faster framework introduced by the Department of Home Affairs, applications are moving more quickly toward decision points. That means any weaknesses, missing documents, inconsistencies, or unclear information are identified and acted on much earlier. In some cases, a decision, including a refusal, can be made before the applicant even realizes there was an issue. The practical takeaway is simple. Submit a complete application from the start. Do not rely on the ability to add documents later. Every piece of evidence should be current, properly translated where required, and clearly aligned with the specific eligibility criteria it supports. If your case involves any complexity, such as gaps in employment, extended time outside Australia, previous visa refusals, or health and character considerations, you need to address those points directly and clearly in your initial submission. Hoping they won't be noticed, or assuming you'll have time to explain them later, is no longer a viable strategy. Under this system, later often doesn't exist the way it used to. The genuine applicant requirement, applied across multiple visa categories, is also being assessed more quickly. This means the department is forming a view sooner on whether your stated purpose aligns with the visa you are applying for, making clarity and consistency in your application more important than ever. A genuine student statement for a student visa, a relationship evidence package for a partner visa, a skills and employment narrative for an employer-sponsored visa, these documents need to be thoughtful, specific, and compelling from the moment of lodgement, not something you plan to improve if asked. The role of migration agents under the new system. The question of whether to use a registered migration agent has become more consequential under the faster processing framework, not less. When processing was slow, the practical cost of a poorly prepared application was primarily measured in additional waiting time. Under the faster system, the cost of a poorly prepared application can be a refusal decision that arrives more quickly and that creates downstream consequences for future applications, for visa conditions, for employment or study arrangements that were contingent on a grant. A registered migration agent who understands the specific requirements of your visa category and how the automated triage system actually evaluates applications can now provide far more value than before. Under the upgraded system introduced by the Department of Home Affairs, the ability to identify risks early and resolve them before submission is critical. This is especially important for complex cases, applications involving prior refusals, character concerns, sponsor history, or detailed relationship evidence for partner visas. With decisions happening faster, there is far less room for error and far less time to fix mistakes after submission. That said, this isn't a blanket recommendation for everyone to use an agent. If your application is straightforward, eligibility is clear, and your documentation is complete, you may not need one. But where complexity exists, professional guidance is now more valuable than ever. What about applications already in the system? For those who have already lodged an application under the previous framework, a common question is whether the new system applies. The department has clarified that existing applications are being progressively migrated to the new assessment framework as they are reached in the queue, meaning the efficiency improvements should ultimately benefit applications lodged before the system upgrade as well as those lodged after it. The most aged cases, particularly in the partner visa stream, have been identified for priority attention under the new framework. If you have an application that has been pending for a significant period and you have not received any communication about it, the improved status update functionality under the new system means that checking in My Account more regularly is worthwhile. The system is now more likely to surface requests for additional information or status changes in a timely way, rather than leaving applications silent for extended periods. If your application has been in the system for a period that significantly exceeds the current processing time published on the department's website for your visa subclass, you have the option of making a written inquiry to the department about the status of your case. That inquiry is most effective when it is factual, specific about the lodgment date and application reference, and accompanied by any evidence of compelling circumstances that might support prioritization. The bigger picture, what the system change signals. The investment Australia has made in upgrading its visa processing infrastructure tells you something important about the direction of travel for Australian immigration policy. Australia is competing with other English-speaking destinations, Canada, the United Kingdom, the United States, for skilled workers, international students, and global talent. Processing times are a competitive factor in that competition. When Canada can offer a student visa decision in weeks and Australia was taking months or longer, Australia was losing applicants it wanted to attract to institutions and employers that needed them. The 2026 processing upgrade is in part a competitive response to that dynamic. Australia wants to be faster. Australia wants to be more predictable. Australia wants applicants to experience a system that functions with the efficiency that a country of Australia's economic standing should be capable of delivering. And the early evidence from the new system suggests that for well-prepared applications from eligible applicants, that ambition is being delivered. At the same time, faster processing is not softer processing. The integrity framework, the genuine applicant requirements, the character and health assessments, none of these have been relaxed as part of the efficiency upgrade. If anything, the automation and AI-assisted assessment makes certain types of inconsistency and non-compliance easier to identify, not harder. The system is faster and more rigorous simultaneously, which is exactly why preparation matters more now than it did before. The bottom line, Australia's new visa processing system is a genuine improvement that benefits genuine applicants who submit complete, well-prepared applications. If that describes you, the news is good. Faster decisions, more consistent outcomes, better communication, less time waiting in uncertainty about your future. If your application is not complete, not well prepared, or involves complexity you have not addressed head-on, the faster system is a more serious problem than the old slow one was, because the decision you were hoping to avoid or delay will now arrive more quickly. Prepare thoroughly, submit completely, address complexity proactively, and if your situation involves anything beyond a straightforward application, seek qualified advice before you lodge, not after you receive a result you were not expecting. Share this with anyone you know who has an application pending or is planning to lodge one. The system has changed. Understanding how it has changed is the first step to working with it effectively, rather than being caught off guard by it.